Welcome back. Jack Michael Show. Derek Hanson in for Jack. Time now for Baseball This Week. Always fun to talk every Friday. A little Major League Baseball, including Twins baseball with the play-by-play voice of the Minnesota Twins, Cory Provus. And, boy, another tough loss last night. And I don't want to use injuries as an excuse. And, we got so many different plays there. But, boy, that episode that we had in the outfield last night just seems like it's one thing after another when this team finds a way to lose.
Yeah, it's what I keep thinking of is that you got a hole in the boat, you plug that one, and then another one springs open, and you just don't have the time to just fill every hole. And right now, they're just missing too many guys at the same time, and it's showing. Just this is all of a sudden in a matter of days. It feels like Derek, the Twins have gone from the oldest team in the American League to now the youngest. When you look at the roster they're throwing out there right now. They got more guys in their 20s than they did, earlier this season.
No, that's a very good point. Injuries, you always hate to use them as an excuse, but let's face it, when you're talking about guys like, Ref Snyder and all these other guys that are in there, those are not guys that we heard of before, certainly during spring training even.
I mean, we saw Gilberto Celestino in camp the last couple of years, but as I said to Rocco last night on the pregame show, I said, he's a talented player and he's young, but if he's your center fielder, game 60, then a lot has gone wrong in your regular season, and that's what's happened. And it's not for performance. It's just simply because of injury, and injuries are spiking throughout the game right now. A ton of soft tissue injuries, Derek, really on the climb, but they're up about 30% going back to 2019. You really can't compare last year, but you compare 2019, roughly 60 games in, there's about 30% more injuries in the game today than there was 2 years ago at this point.
It's interesting, and so much talk is about this. I think maybe you've had, Danny's talked about this a little bit, I think, with you, and it's been brought up on the TV side, too, is just, these guys are working out so much, and there maybe there needs to be a little bit of a dial back. Has that been talked about amongst, trainers in the league, or?
I don't know about that. I just think that I know the Twins were looking at a study they were working on in advance of this season was kind of like looking at marathon runners, that people that were able to run the full marathon, but then the next year or the next race or so they could not, and then they had to work their way back up into being able to run 26.2 miles again. There were some teams that were looking into that. The Twins were one of them. But it's not going to be apples and apples. It's going to be, you're going to have conflict. It's not the same physical grind. And I don't know if it's fair to say that, the work that they did this offseason was incorrect, because the body has been building to throw for, 6-7 months and swing the bat, dozens and dozens of times a day, and to do it every day for 6 or 7 months. And then to not do that, and then to do it again, I think we all expected injuries. Now, to what extent, to what level, to what body part, I think there'll be some studies done, and we'll kind of see exactly where baseball was hurt the most. But just looking at the transactions, it's soft tissue. It's a lot of obliques, intercostals, and hamstrings and calves and things like that, as opposed to traumatic injuries that are happening on hit by pitches and, sliding into bases. You're seeing a few of those, but not to the extent that we're seeing more soft tissue injuries right now.
Yeah, and I guess you bring up a good point. It kind of relates to last year at this time we were talking about, will the season never start again, right? And collective bargaining type of stuff. And, and when guys are working out in your garage, who knows? I mean, I'm sure there'll be a lot of looks into that, how much getting out of that routine really did affect all these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And not everybody had, Nelson Cruz's, estate to prepare for. I mean, some guys had to get creative and just grab a mattress and a ball and just throw it, and grab some kind of tee and hit it into a wall or hit it into a mattress. And not everybody had the same facilities to use to prepare for the season. Some that lived in Fort Myers were able to use the Hammond Stadium complex, but that was only because they lived down there. You could not fly down there and then use that facility to work out during the shutdown last year. So, the Royals, they have avoided, big injuries. The Tigers have avoided big injuries, but the White Sox have been banged up. They've kept their pitching healthy, but they're missing their center fielder. They're missing their left fielder, two important bats. and they haven't missed a beat.
You mentioned soft tissue injuries, and I got to give you credit. You described what happened with Mitch Garver as well as you could, but I tell you, when I was listening on my way home, I was wincing the whole way. That is just a scary. I mean, it's really a scary situation, and because
it's awful. I mean,
yeah,
it's awful. I mean, there was nothing funny about that. And look, the Ref Snyder collision with the wall. I'm not going to lie, I did laugh when I saw it because to me, it's something you don't see too often in Major League Baseball, and I hope he's feeling better. He's on the concussion injury list right now. So on that side of it, I'm, kicking myself that I did laugh at it a little bit because he's hurt. But with Garver, there was nothing funny about that. And he was in so much pain. And I can't even fathom how he feels and how awful that just felt and continues to feel right now. So he's going to be out a while. Rocco said it's going to be weeks, not months, but let's wait and see. This is going to take some time for him to recover.
Well, I would say more like months. I mean, you're a catcher in that situation. My heavens. I mean, you're squatting down off and on for 3 hours. That's going to be a tough one, right? I mean, there's just no getting around it.
Yeah. He had surgery. To what extent, we don't know. And
right.
That's for him to disclose. And I think we're all adults if he chooses to reveal what happened, I think we just have to listen and okay. But it sounds awful. And he had a procedure performed, and he's back in Minneapolis now, and he's just going to rest and recover. I don't think there'll be anything baseball-related that Mitch will do for quite some time.
Yeah, I agree. I know like 30 years ago it was, but I know a friend of mine's dad had a situation on the golf course where something, and that was scary. I mean, rushed emergency room type of stuff. So it is something we see these things on Funny Home videos all the time, but this type of situation is really scary. There's no getting around it.
No, nothing good about that at all. So I hope the best for him, and hopefully that he's feeling fine. He's about to be a dad for the first time. He and his wife are set to welcome their first child soon. So he's going to be busy in that regard. And now you add this. It's some tough times ahead here for Mitch Garver.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned Nelson Cruz. There was a play last night, and I thought you and Danny really described it well. Just Nelson Cruz, 40 years old, hustling it out to first base and extended an inning, and certainly kept the Twins in that game. And those are the little things in baseball. And I grew up watching Kirby Puckett, who hustled every ground out to first base every time, and I admired that so much. And here's Nelson Cruz doing the same thing last night.
Yeah, I mean, if he's a leader, and if he's doing that at 40, then everybody should be doing that in their 20s. And he certainly does that. So I never doubt that with him. I just wonder about the risk right now, Derek. He got hit by a pitch in Anaheim a few weeks ago, and he's playing through it, and I wonder if the wrist is bothering him more than he's letting on. And I just think he's saying, I have to play because we're down to just, such few guys that can really impact the lineup on a given day. So I'm sure he's playing through that pain right now because he hasn't been swinging a hot bat now for a while. Even before he got hit by that pitch, his numbers in May were dropping off, and so far June hasn't been too good either.
My final thing here before we kind of wrap things up and get ready for Game 2 of this 4-game series tonight, there are a lot of young players out there, and there's certainly we're kind of getting to know them, the old Twins slogan from many years ago. Who are some of the guys that we should maybe be listening for when you're giving a call? I mean, that really could excite us here as we go along.
Well, I think, Kirilloff and Larnach, these are going to be prominent players here for a long, long time. Larnach's going to be an outfielder. I think Kirilloff long-term, Derek, is going to be the Twins' first baseman for the time being, some first, some outfield, but I think long-term he'll be at first base for many, many years. I'm excited for the next wave to be more on the pitching side. That's Yohan Duran, Matt Canarino, Josh Winder, Jordan Balazovic. I think that there's going to be some arms that are going to join the team. If not this year, then certainly next year. You could say maybe Duran this year. He's at AAA right now. The other guys, some at A-ball, some at AA, are moving their way up. Balazovic was injured to start his season, but he's back and throwing. But also Royce Lewis. You can't help but think about how much he's missed right now. Just not seeing him play. A guy that I thought was going to break into the big leagues at some point this season, but out for the year with a torn ACL. But that's going to delay his time. No doubt about that. He should be healthy and ready to play again in 2022. But where's he going to have to start? Obviously spring training, and then does he go maybe even to high A ball or double A, get the competition back, start playing again? So the ACL injury for him certainly has delayed his progress.
All right, thank you very much. We'll be listening tonight, and I'll be tuning in on my pontoon. Thanks so much for your time, as always, here for Baseball This Week, Cory.
All right, Derek, thanks, man.
You bet. Baseball This Week with Cory Provus, brought to you by Dean's Bulk Service. Big enough to serve you, small enough to know you.